course, all to do in the second leg as it finishes Atletico Madrid 4, Barcelona 0. Luis Garcia is with us, but I want to start with Alex Kirkland. Pitch side, we discussed it at the break. I don't think I can remember a first half performance like that from Atleti in a very long time, Alex.
Yeah, it was incredible. The crowds were absolutely loving it. It felt like there were more goals there. They could have scored even more. They were absolutely deserving of that lead. And as you guys mentioned earlier on, it's one of the frustrating things about this Atletico Madrid team, because we know they are capable of this sometimes. We saw it in the last round in the Copa del Rey. They went to Betis and won 5-0. Here they've scored 4 against Barcelona. And like I say, a source of frustration for the fans is that they can't do it more often, but that doesn't take away from what a special night this was here. That was one of the best first halves I've ever seen at this stadium. The players just finished a lap of honour behind me, heading off the pitch and down the tunnel. Yes, the second half didn't live up to the first. It was never going to. But still, what we saw, like I said, that opening 45 minutes was something pretty spectacular.
Do you know what? It is so frustrating with Atleti at times, because I've said it many times on this show. They have got good players who at times it feels the harness is on. And we saw a little bit of that in the second half, going back into the shell, but that was kind of more natural because they had a 4-0 lead. But too often we've seen it in the first 20 minutes, half an hour or first half of games, where it's taken until they're behind for them to play like this. And so that is a frustration. But I'm going to say something now that I don't think I've probably never said in terms of a result. And I honestly mean this. I said to you, just before the end of the game, I think Atleti need a 5th. I mean, that sounds crazy. Because normally you say, I think they need a 3rd. I think they need a 2nd. I said to you, I think they need a 5th, because that's how bonkers Atleti can be, particularly away from home. And that's how bonkers this Barcelona team can be.
Yeah.
Now, if they defend like that again at home, the chances are they won't keep a clean sheet. And will they defend like that again? I mean, possibly. Ian Darke and Steve McManaman in the commentary were saying, somebody's going to say to Hansi Flick, we can't keep doing this. But he's already been steadfast.
Yeah.
And said, I don't care. I'm going to take the bad ones on the chin, and we're going to keep doing our defensive line this way. That's why I say it is possible for this Barcelona team to score 4 at home. There's no question. That's how good they can be. They were not tonight. Far from it. In fact, they were very poor tonight going forward. But they, you could argue, are one of the top 3 teams in European football in terms of attacking talent. So they could score 4. Mark my words. But they could lose another 4 at home.
Yeah.
That's why the second leg, and I mean it, people maybe think I'm crazy, the second leg ain't over. And I'm not selling that for TV.
No.
Because we have it.
No,
because I'm telling you.
I think everyone thought you were.
I mean, in case I'm trying to play the corporate card and sell it, I am not. That's how crazy Barcelona could be.
Another crazy thing to say, which I think is true as well, Luis, 4-0. Barca were lucky to be 4-0 down at half-time.
Yeah, definitely. We saw just on the highlights another 2 chances, big chances in front of goal, where Atletico Madrid would have had even a bigger result. And I want to pick it from Clay. I totally agree. When I saw Kubasi scoring that first goal, I thought, okay, this is going to continue open. In the moment the Barcelona got that first one, even though the result ended up in a 4-1 win, it could have turned around very quickly when you go back to Camp Nou. But the way and the concept of this Barcelona is not that they cannot score 4 goals. Of course they can do that. But playing like this with that high line against a team that has figured out that movement, that timing on when to start the runs, the timing of the runs of Juliano once and again, they were brilliant. They were perfect. He knew it's been worked, that they have to wait. And much more when the line is right in the middle of the park. You know that there is no offside right after. And the line was just right there. So I don't even have to do this U-turn or this movement first to try to break that line. You just have to make the run into the space. And when you face a team with so much speed on the wide areas, you're going to struggle all the time.
I can guarantee you, almost guarantee you, the second leg, Barcelona will be much better going forward. Rarely see 2 performances like that from their front players. So I think that's pretty much nailed on. They will be much better at home going forward. What we can't guarantee is whether they clean up this defensive mess.
Yeah.
That's the craziness about it.
Just from your point of view, Alex, obviously they mentioned the goal that was disallowed in the second half. What information did you get from the sidelines about that? Because obviously 6 minutes, a long time, looked to be micromanaging what was exactly going on, and in the end it was the Lewandowski offside.
Yeah, well, as usual, Dan, in the stadium, the fans and those of us pitch side as well know less than pretty much anybody else as these things are happening. You're right, I think it was 6 minutes and 23 seconds, the delay. I've been told it was the second longest VAR delay in Spanish football history. There was one that was 8 minutes, apparently. This was second in terms of longevity. No one knew what was going on at the Atletico bench. Simeone was losing his mind on the touchline. They were continually coming over, talking to the assistant referee, the fourth official, asking what's going on. Eventually, yes, that Lewandowski heel pretty much fractionally offside when the ball kind of bounced off him to Kubarsi. But yeah, it's one of those where all the fans here were scratching their heads, wondering what's going on and why on earth is it taking so long?
I think when people were wondering, well, I think it was Hanko, the defender, will say, well, he played the ball. But that's not enough these days. You have to have, they changed the law, it gets a bit ambiguous. But the law goes along the lines of he has to be somewhat in control of the play.
Yeah.
And all he's doing is throwing a leg out there to try and block it. So at no point is he under control of the ball here. It comes at him so fast. Now, whether we like this or not, and I don't really like it, but because he's got no control in that play, he's knocked it into Lewandowski, who was inches offside. And that's the reason that they came back to it. If he had more time and control of the ball, and it'd end up at Lewandowski, that'd have been fine. But he did not. He's basically just launched a leg out and it skimmed. So there was no control from the defender, and that's why they deemed it offside in the end. And I agree with Macca in the commentary. I know Macca doesn't like VAR. I mean, I think that's pretty obvious. But that made the Premier League look officious.
Yes, which is...
I mean, it's just too long. Too long.
Luis, overall, why don't we see teams do this more often to Barcelona? The high line is nothing new. Obviously, it's something that Hansi Flick introduced and was like, this is the way I'm going to play. If you don't like it, tough. But the way Atletico Madrid tore apart that defence today is surely a lesson to others.
Yeah, definitely. We've seen it a few times this season. I remember right now the Sevilla game when they found a way. I don't think that it's just because others know what they have to do. It's about what Barcelona can do to don't feel it or don't break it. When Barcelona is making a good... it's not losing the ball as easy as we've seen it today in the middle of the park. When Barcelona is putting a high pressure intensity in the middle of the park, when the ball, you know that it's more difficult. It's when the teams can have this option. As you can see, it's when Barcelona is in transition. There's so much space between the midfielder and the line of midfield and the line of defense. That space gives the opportunity to the Atletico Madrid players to have the time to look up and put the ball wherever they want. And the runs, what I mentioned before, the runs from Juliano, from Longman, from Griezmann, and even Julian Alvarez, they've been fantastic. They had the time, they have the composure to wait until the moment that the ball's in control, that someone look at them. As you can see, there is no pressure on the ball. I got time to decide. The run is on the move. And of course, Juliano is so fast that it's very difficult to stop. But the rest of the players, as you can see, they manage, they compose, they wait for the ball to arrive. They never went forward to get involved. As you can see in the middle, the run starts, you are late, the rest of the defenders are late, and you are in favor. So fantastic, the movements from Atletico de Madrid, outstanding the work from Simeone's team. And it's true that it looks easy, but it's not when you are on the field.
Barca could, in theory, obviously, still win the quadruple, Alex. But when you see them like this, they could end up with nothing as well.
Yeah, well, that's the reality of the situation at this stage of the season, isn't it? They're still in all of these competitions, but there are questions. Look, they're the favourites right now to win LaLiga. They're sure just a point ahead of Real Madrid, but look at Real Madrid. They are far from the finished article either. In the Champions League, it does feel like they've dropped off from where they were last season when they genuinely look like one of the 2 or 3 best teams in Europe. And the Copa del Rey now looks extremely difficult. I agree. It's not impossible. There's still a second leg to come. Unfortunately, they've got a long wait for that second leg as well. It's 3 weeks, isn't it? A big gap between these 2 legs. In that time, the state of the form of the 2 teams can change. Injuries, players coming back from injury as well. Barca with some big players missing today. So a lot can happen before that second leg, but it's a massive ask, especially that it finished 4-0. If it had been 4-1, okay, maybe that's something you can do. But 4-0 is tricky. But look, yes, I mean, let's see. Like I say, right now they're still in a great position in the league. Let's see what happens in the Champions League. They won, of course, the Super Cup, and yeah, let's see what happens in this Copa del Rey second leg. But that's the nature of being in all these competitions at this stage. You can win them, or yeah, you could indeed go home empty-handed.
Wasn't the second? I might be the wrong fiction. Wasn't the second leg of this Copa del Rey last year 4-2?
4-4. It was 4-2 in the La Liga.
Oh, no,
I was at the game, Craig. I remember that great interview I did with Lamine Yamal at the end.
Was that the game I never get invited to?
It was 4-4 in the first leg and then 1-0 to Barca in the second leg.
But 4-2 was in the league.
4-2 in La Liga, yeah.
And I think, as Alex mentioned there, the fact that the game's not next week and there is a break, I don't know exactly how many players they will have back.
Just a reminder, Rafinha was out, Rashford was out, Gavi obviously out, and Pedri as well for this time.
Yeah, so I think Pedri was a month's injury, but that seemed like 3 weeks ago.
Yes, indeed.
So he should be somewhere around. If they get Rafinha and Rashford back, that's a bit of pace. Look, I think what Simeone will be saying in the dressing room, listen, don't get cocky about this, because, you know, this team going forward at home, they're going to absolutely go for it. Because they've been embarrassed tonight, Barcelona. So Hansi Flick has got a battle in the league. He's got the Champions League, obviously, they're going to get a bye. So he's got all these things he's thinking about. He doesn't have to worry about that. But they were embarrassed badly tonight. So he will want a response. He will want a response from his team in the league, because he knows Real Madrid are sniffing behind him. He knows they're not a great side, but he knows they are still on their tail. And he will be looking for his players to give him in the second leg what he didn't get tonight. I mean, they were absolutely horrendous tonight. Yeah, they got better in the second half, but they had to push forward. And yeah, they defended a little better, but obviously Eric Garcia got sent off. That was last ditch. But they didn't have to defend as much in the second half, because Atleti just sat a little bit deeper, as they do sometimes. But what he saw from his team in the first half was nothing short of embarrassing. So I do expect a response from them, particularly in this competition. And that's why I still think this game, as big a gap as there is not quite dead in the water just yet.
March the 3rd will be the return leg at the Camp Nou. Alex, thank you very much. Thanks to Luis Garcia as well. For Barcelona, it's a Monday night game as a result of today's clash, meaning that Girona will take on the defending champions at the Camp Nou on the Monday. Preceding that on Saturday, it's Real Madrid against Real Sociedad. Those games, of course, all live on ESPN+.
They haven't complained about that, have they, Real Madrid? You know, Barca getting some rest, you know. Yes. Make them play on Saturday.